Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now August 23rd of 2023, and given that we are just a couple of weeks away from the D23 event by Disney, in which they do still plan to drop that Snow White official trailer during that event. So by the way, it kickstarts, I believe, around September 9th until the 10th, and right around that time frame is when we are all going to be able to finally dissect this trailer and see exactly what it's all about in motion. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into the subject, shall we? Now, we know that this film has been getting a lot of controversy, a lot of criticism, and rightfully so for valid reasons. We all know what we saw with those leaked photographs that Disney lied about. You know, they claimed that they were fake, they backtracked and then claimed that they were real, they just weren't photographed by Disney photographers. It was a very odd excuse, but moving ahead to where we are today, this is where a lot of things are beginning to unravel, because right now, the board, Bob Iger, they're really heading into a phase of panic on figuring out exactly how they are going to stabilize this movie for the final cut. We already know that they have plans for re-editing this movie, and in a very big way, that's going to revamp the film from start to finish. Their plan B is to reshoot many aspects of this movie. The only problem with that is the strikes are getting in the way, everything happening with SAG and WGA. But not to get off too much of the subject here, let's get into the main thing. Now, with Snow White 2024 still going through many issues by Disney as Bob Iger and the board head into damage control, one major development has much to do with the test screening of this film that has gone terribly wrong. Now, one sequence that got very negative feedback from screeners had to do with a full-blown scene in the second act of the movie that was presented by Disney, in which Gal Gadot turned into the old hag and eventually meets with Snow White. Now, there is a sequence where both Gal and Rachel are singing together as Gal holds the poisonous apple. The song is said to be about Snow White making new friends, in this scenario making friends with the old hag and befriending her, which is nothing more than a facade. The song eventually comes to a close when the old hag gives Snow White the apple. Now, this is where it gets bad. However, unlike the original, where Snow White bites the apple, in this film by Disney, they break the source material. In this film, all Snow White does is touch the apple and gets poisoned and only gets weakened. This comes as a result, as Disney fearing that biting the apple and getting poisoned by it would be a little too harsh on a young audience. Disney did, however, as it turns out, shoot a scene back in June of 2022, based on the original, where she does bite the apple and fall into a forever sleep, but this was not used in the final cut so far. What's in the current cut is that Snow White loses her motive to become a leader, and her literal strength once she touches the apple falls apart. Now, let me just stop here quick, guys, before I get to the next segment. The problem that I have with this is it definitely destroys the source material. So, apparently the poisonous apple is still in this film, except it's not poisonous in the traditional sense. So Snow White, where it stands right now in the final cut, she does not bite it. She does not eat the apple, she does not taste the apple, nothing like that happens. She, however, only touches the apple and loses her essence, from what it sounds like, or her mojo, whatever you want to call it. Her drive to become a leader dissipates. Her strength literally dissipates. She becomes weak and tired and stuff like that. And I'm not quite sure how I think a lot of fans are going to take this, especially people that love the original source material and grew up with the 37 original. Guys, we already know that the son of the director of the original film came forward and trashed Disney. He himself even said that they're doing all these crazy woke things with this movie and how they have radical thoughts and plans about the live-action remakes, and he thinks it's just offensive. And those were his literal words. I mean, he said, "My father and Walt would be spinning in their graves." I mean, that's coming from the son of the director of Snow White 37. And this is another segment that proves that they just do not care about the source material. Now, what's funny is that they did shoot the traditional scene, like I said before, where she does bite that apple and falls into a forever sleep. That's driving Disney into a phase of panic on whether or not they want to throw that traditional scene into the final cut or not. I think regardless, though, it's going to turn out to be pure garbage, whatever they throw in there. But moving on, alright? Now, the presented scene reportedly got such negative feedback that now Disney is considering throwing in the apple scene where she does bite it and falls into a sleep. The apple even glows in a goldish hue once Snow White touches it. Gal's singing is described to be unappealing and not well performed in this particular scene. She also dances, something that is driving Disney into panic over the film. There are reportedly over 10 songs presented in this movie in the final cut so far, some of which have been deleted, many of which are done by Gal. Right now, based on feedback, Disney is trying to figure out what to do with the fan base of the Snow White franchise, or whatever you want to call it, the tales, the fairy tales, and the apple scene, after the screening went horribly wrong. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I look at the original 37 film, it's a well-established German tale, and as you can all see, what they're doing with this film is that they're ditching the German tale, not just by casting somebody who just does not match the overall appearance of Snow White, let's just be honest here, but with the 7 dwarfs, diminishing the source material, throwing away the iconic scenes. I don't even know what this movie is anymore, and I don't even know why Disney is even calling it Snow White, let's be real. It might as well be called something entirely different, you know, giving it a different title I think would have been a little bit better, because this is nothing more than a reimagining, let's be honest here. The fact that Gal's singing is reportedly unappealing and has a terrible performance, not that surprising. When I saw her singing Imagine in that cringe series of songs that celebrities were singing from their homes, I think that pretty much told us all we really needed to for what's up and coming in Snow White. So, look, at the end of the day, we know that people like Rachel ZEGLER, who represent this movie, is definitely the insufferable actress. Gal more or less stays a little quiet, or has stayed quiet. You know, we don't really hear too much from her on social media, really. I don't even think she's really that active on social media. Rachel ZEGLER, however, is. I mean, she is big on Twitter. She's big on everywhere. So that's her deal. But yeah, this movie, guys, I think what's going to end up happening, if you want my 2 cents here, is that once this trailer drops, Disney's going to make a handful of changes. There's no doubt about it. Now, we know that they shot 1 hour extra of footage for many various scenes, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. No, I'm not the one from night to moon.